members, they never should have gotten the stipend. The board should have reviewed, prior to issuing those checks, month after month after month after month, they should have looked at them first. And when you get the bank statements, like I had to go get, and that man right there twice voted to stop board members from getting bank statements. But once we did, you could see where the payments were going. You could recognize that there was immorality taking place. I think that's why you have the new board. You can also recognize that when we weren't getting payments in on the bank statements, we knew that we weren't billing Palmerton properly. And that's $1 million taken from these taxpayers. Again, if you bill properly, you don't need $1 million from us in your budget. You should be able to reduce the budget by at least that $1 million.
Dave, can we present budget tonight, and then maybe you can follow up with that?
Just so we can review, we kind of just hash this out. Our budgetary process is essentially a collaboration of everybody involved. And as Mr. Corby just said, we built this budget from $0. We met with our high school team, our middle school team, our elementary center, administration teams, and they requested information early on from their teachers about what they would need to make the next school year successful. Included in those meetings were our building and grounds, athletics, our technology department, obviously our business office, our industrial arts departments, and our special education department, which all consume a significant amount of data. We also involved key business partners, such as our insurance company, healthcare consultant, and other service providers, such as George's Transportation, our trash haulers, gas companies, internet and phone. There are some. We have a pending need to address curriculum in the district with a substantial price tag. For those of you that have been around, our district has not done anything with curriculum in several years. We have a lot of expiring curriculum. We have open pending litigation, as well as adequate staffing needs to meet the needs of our students. Obviously, we want to comply. A certified nursing position, one addition to the business office. I did put a note down there. 5 years ago, we had 330 staff members. Today, we have 255. That's a 23% reduction in staff in 5 years.
Can you break down that, man, as to, as to what staff they were? Was it teachers? Was it support staff? What was it?
I didn't go that far into it. I would assume a lot of them are associated with the elementary consolidation.
I mean, I would think 23%.
A lot was support staff, because I remember from a previous presentation, we
can certainly make that.
I don't see a reduction in expenses that are anywhere close to that. So over 5 years, we've lost 23% of our staff. Our expenses have not gone down 23%. And we hear that staff salaries are a big part of that. So thank you.
Absolutely. And just so we're clear, adding this many positions to the district that has a price tag of $835,000. You're including their salary, their benefits, and their users.
Are those secretaries in addition to the one per school?
Yes.
These would be in addition.
Yes, correct.
835.
835,000.
And Brian, it looks like there's 80 staff member reduction. 80 people for your 2,300 students.
If we move on, I think the next slide is important to show. I used it last year, I updated it for this year. We need to talk about history a little bit. Our tax rate history in the district from 2011 to 2012 was 47.32 mils to where we are today, 52.77 mils. Obviously, the majority of our revenue is no secret. 53.6% comes from local revenue, which we'll talk about a little bit more in depth. 41% is state revenue, and then 5.3% is federal. If we move on to the next slide, the local revenue is broken down pretty substantially. Property taxes are the largest portion of your local revenue. Earned income tax is the second largest group, followed by delinquent tax collections as well as tuition from other districts and an IDEA reimbursement from the IU.
slide, when we talk about the, relative budget, then, why was the budget for property taxes not very different between 2021 and 21-22 when there was a big increase?
So,
It's a $100,000 increase, so we definitely raised taxes.
yeah, so yes, we did lower, we raised our taxes, however, I lowered the collection rate to account for COVID to, I believe, 92% last year. I didn't produce the prior year's figures, so I can't really say what they used to estimate those figures.
This isn't what we took in, this is what was budgeted.
Yeah, that was what was budgeted. I can't say where they derived that figure from, I didn't produce that number. I can tell you my figure was conservative based on the fact that we were coming out of COVID, we were still in COVID, we weren't sure what was going to happen. I lowered our property tax collection rate, probably, I believe it was by 3%, just to cover that.
And we can cut less than 3.5% of that.
Yes.
Making sure I understand. Thank you.
It's no secret that the NEF mistake was $3 million. That was what you didn't pay. What was that in this budget today?
It's not in this budget. No.
Okay, that's what I was wondering, because I think it's going up and up. So if we repay that back at $40 million, and we're headed to $45 million.
So that expenditure, it was uniquely put into our system, I'll say. And our financial statement was adjusted by our auditing firm several years ago to reflect the change in our financial statement to lower it because that money was not here. It's not in this budget. If it's in there, I would love somebody to show it to me because it's just not there. If you bought something and paid for it, whether we got it or not, it's not reoccurring in this budget year. I don't know.
Well, I think what I'm trying to ask is if we have 40, and I'm not sure of the exact number, but if we had a $40 million budget that year and we're at $45 million, did the expenses go up that much that $3 million got wiped out in increases in expenses? Or what happened to that $3 million?
It was paid in gone. I mean, it was fund transferred via
Wire transfer.
Yeah, wire transfer via bank. It hit our expenditure file when it was corrected by the auditors, but to say it's in a future budget, how do we get from 40 to 45 in that time period? There's a lot of factors involved there.
That's what I'm saying, for that much in an increase.
Yeah, I mean, transportation, like I said, there's also $1 million in here that's gonna drop off when we stop the grants because we added things in that were
And that was
pushing on those grants.
Yeah, before.
And I'm not trying to skate around that issue, I'm just trying to say, there's lots of things that contribute to that. I mean, salaries have gone up, benefits have gone up over that time period since NEF had happened. Cost of goods and services have certainly gone up. Everything has gone up since then. But mainly, your drivers of any budget, and I think our solicitor would agree with this, is your salaries and benefits are your main drivers. At 64.5% of your budget, that's your driver. That's gonna take your budget to where it's going.
I have a question, in this $45 million budget, is there a fund balance left?
For the same number of students being educated in the same, granted the smaller, debt-free, safe elementary schools. But when you look at those 5-year charts, now that is a difference when you're asking somebody to lend money to them. So it's a bond prospectus, legally obligated to be accurate, honest, or fraud comes out, right? So if you look at those numbers in comparison to what your lobbyist administration's giving you now, and you recognize that in those years where no tax increase, that's where we came on board as citizens and said, we better watch what these guys are doing because they had $13 million in a savings account of surplus collection of taxes. So when you hear your lobbyist say, hey, the taxes hasn't changed, there was so much added on when nobody was paying attention in the community that those tax increases where they were taking the limits like you're trying to do today and nobody was paying attention, they amassed at a $13 million surplus. And they got like sailors on leave. They bought a $7 million stadium. They gave a couple $1 million to an NEF program they never even did. They didn't even bother collecting money from Palmerton or the other districts we were providing for, and these taxpayers paid the burden. We had 75 more employees than you needed to do the same job. And if you look at our employment records versus the entire state, and I sent these to the board, you'll see that you can compare yourself to other districts of the same size. Not only is our budget through the roof, but here's your soundbite. We are paying more in medical benefits to our staff than the average Carbon County average Carbon County resident has as their income. Look it up on any census.
A lot of time, Saturdays and Sundays.
Well, one of the good things is that Ed's been keeping us abreast of things as we've been